Thank you, ladies. Thank you all for coming. Tonight, we are here at Left Hand Brewery in Longmont, Colorado, and I'm speaking with Morgan Zamora. She is the tasting room general manager, assistant, correct? And the coordinator for Ales for Females. And the Colorado Beer Trail has infiltrated the Ales for Females Monday meeting, and we are here with Morgan to talk about Ales for Females, where it's been and where it's going. Welcome.
Welcome. All right, so this is one of the very few rare times we let a guy in the room, right? Very special occasion. So, how many, oh goodness, we have about 52 ladies in the room tonight. Let's give a round of applause to you. All right, do you have a first question?
So, first off, Morgan, tell me a little bit about Ales for Females, how it got started, and what its mission is.
All right, so Ales for Females, we are in our 8th year, and it was actually started by the beautiful lady in the back. Her name is Chintzia Wallace, and I know all of us have had a couple beers and times, and she's led several meetings, and it began mostly because the bar was a boys' club. There were a lot of men in the bar, but we knew there was women that liked beer. We know. We're smart. We're very, very smart consumers. But the bar was still all men. So it began with a way to make it more approachable for women to feel comfortable coming in, ordering beers, and asking questions about beers.
And when I first found out about Ales for Females, it was a monthly group. You made an announcement, you had a meeting or two, and then things changed. What happened?
So I came into the program in 2012, and I believe it was right before I came in that we moved from one meeting to two meetings, and now we are at 3 meetings. Oh my goodness. And the meetings sell out incredibly quick. February 2nd was posted 3 days ago, and it's already sold out. And it is because of you ladies, these wonderful, beautiful ladies who are surrounding us right now, who really breathe the program. Love to pretend that it's because I'm an awesome host, but really it's because you love beer, you tell all of your friends, and you love sharing it. So I love all the times that I come in and somebody says, you have to meet my mom, my aunt, my friend, and I just wanted to share this so much with them. And so it's all because of the ladies in this room and the ladies in all of the other meetings that are the reason the program's as successful as it is.
Great. And these are monthly meetings, correct? So you meet now the first, third, and fourth, or which Mondays of the month?
I like to make it hard. So it's a little sporadic, but it is always Mondays at 6:30 to about 8:30. Depends on how we're feeling that night. And so we will host, now we're moving into 3 meetings. We do the same presentation 3 times to allow the most number of women to attend.
Great. And tell me about the presentations you do. At the beginning, it was kind of, this is beer, this is how it's made, these are the ingredients. How has it evolved?
So we like to pick a topic that we think you'd find interesting. A lot of times the topics come from submissions. So if you ever have something you want to talk about, feel free to send me an email and let me know. But usually how the structure goes is we pick a presenter first, then we pick a beer that pairs with the presenter, and then we pick a food dish that pairs with both the beer and the presenter. So our number one priority is finding something that is engaging and interesting and really the most relevant to what is happening in the craft beer industry, and then we revolve the presentation around that.
So tell me, give me a couple of examples of some of the sessions you've had and some of the ones that are coming up.
All right. Well, feel free to cheer if I mention your favorite. One that we do very frequently is Oktoberfest with the handsome Ro Gunzel. So when he joined us during last August's presentation, he was our head brewer, and he has a new fancy title. He's actually the chief of quality. So he's heading our quality control department. And I know each of you have heard when he comes in, he talks a lot about the steps and the measures we take to make sure that the beer in front of you is gorgeous and perfect and exactly how it should taste every time you have it. Another presentation we love. Has anybody been to the Burton Daniel beer cocktail presentation? Because we love beer and we love cocktails, but together becomes something even more magical, and seeing him blush is kind of fun.
And you also feature food with each of your meetings, correct?
We do. So Lori Marcolina, who owns Lori's Cuisine, actually caters all of our meetings for us, and she is very patient with me. I come up with these outrageous, crazy ideas, and she goes, very graciously, of course. And so tonight we paired our Polestar Pilsner with a red bean chili prepared with our Polestar Pilsner and a cornbread in very traditional of Lori Marcolina. It's got a little bit of a kick, right? Yep.
And as the Ales for Females group and the meetings have kind of progressed over the years, there's been a little bit of it's more than just a weekly or bi-monthly meeting, correct? It's actually, you've kind of created a sorority of sorts. Can you talk to me about that?
I would like to refer to it more as a community. That I personally see you ladies usually once a Monday, but I know that's not the only time you're here. It's okay. You're going to admit it. But right, so you... And I had mentioned this to you earlier, Jim, that very often I'll receive an email from a woman, and she says, I just moved to Longmont, and I really want to make some friends, and I really like people who are cool and like beer. And I say, you know what, come in and meet me and introduce yourself to me on Monday, and I will walk her to a table, and I will introduce her to the coolest ladies, and she never sits alone again. And you are the most accommodating, gracious group of women. I love it.
That's fantastic. And in addition to the folks that you've kind of cultivated here at Ales for Females, how have the people that have kind of become involved in this group carried Ales for Females, your philosophy, your kind of marketing abilities for beer and women beyond Left Hand?
All right, so I'd say ladies in this room, we range from, I bet there's a couple that this may be your first craft beer, and that's okay. That's a better first craft beer than I had my first time. And we've got several who are in the industry, home brewers. We've got an incredible range. But for example, the lovely Elizabeth Main, which I believe she stepped out. Whoops. But she was a long-time attendee, and she actually, so not being part of the industry, we sparked a passion among her, and she pursued following craft beer independent study. And she actually came and did a presentation with us a few years ago, and it was wonderful. And so we see this go very full circle, that we introduce you to topics, and a lot of times we learn just as much from each of you.
That's fantastic. The other thing you mentioned earlier speaking with you was that one of the main efforts of Ales for Females is to educate women about beer so they can, taste a beer, know what they're drinking, be able to judge it on its own merits, whether they like it or not, and what they don't like about it, whether too hoppy, too malty, whatever. How has that education effort changed Left Hand in terms of its advertising, its marketing, and how it basically presents its beers to the world?
That wasn't on the cheat sheet.
Yes, it was.
Let's see. Well, as I was saying before, that we learn so much from each of you, and we're learning about each of you as an individual. And one big thing that we do in all of our meetings is we discuss synergies. So a large focus in all these presentations when we talk about the pairings with beer and food is not identifying one singular flavor. It's about you learning about what your palate tastes like and what your preferences are. And from that, you're giving us more information about how to create excellent award-winning beer.
Great. And you mentioned the sessions. Let's talk a little bit more about those, because you've really gotten into some detail with these sessions, more detail than you would expect at just a kind of familiarity type of meeting. For example, one of the sessions I noticed that you've had or have is about off flavors. Now, when you go to a craft brewery, a tap room, off flavors, that's something that a beer judge like myself would need to identify when you're drinking homebrew and trying to judge it based on its style merits. And let me tell you, you get a lot of off flavors with homebrew submissions. But why would you bring off flavors to that, or style differences, such a fine kind of grain of information?
So if everybody remembers, in April we were joined by the lovely John Curie, and he's a certified Cicerone, and that was the only meeting we will ever give you bad beer. So we brought you an oxidized, a light struck, a DMS, and there was one other one, if anybody remembers, diacetyl. Look, he snuck in the back that night. So during that presentation, we showed you next to, so all of those spikes were in Polestars, and then we had a beautiful As Should Be Enjoyed Polestar, and we did some comparisons, and we talked about those off flavors. And the reason that that's so important is because those off flavors, even though we try as hard as we can to make sure that there are not any issues, in the transportation of leaving the brewery to going to a liquor store, things can happen, or liquor stores may not be maintaining them well. Or I have done this on occasion, not maintained it well after I bought it. And so it's about giving you the resources you need to know, is this because it's a beer that was prepared incorrectly and just wasn't using the best practices, or was it because that's not how it was meant to be intended and you should give them a second chance?
Very good. And with that knowledge, I would imagine, and ladies, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when you sit down with some guy like me that knows beer, brews beer, has taken over the kitchen and made it stinky and sticky, you can actually talk about beer with a massive amount of intelligence, correct?
I absolutely, all of you women are so versed, and I love it. And I feel like it's because of communities like this one that we're really changing the perception that traditional stereotypes are that women drink wine and men drink beer. And I know that when I started at Left Hand and I would go to bars and I'd look at the beer menu, people would ask me if I need help. Oh. And you know what? That happens far less often now, and I think it's because of women that are in this room that are going to bars and having more knowledge than the average consumer is really changing that perception, and women are awesome.
Very good. So, Ales for Females, you're celebrating your 7th anniversary this year. You've expanded the program from 2 to 3 meetings per month, which is great. People that want to find out about this, by the way, check out lefthandbrewing.com, and you can find Ales for Females. There's a link there, tells you all about the program, what things are coming up, and you can find out about tickets. How much is it to come to a meeting?
They are $12 unless you have a membership, and the membership's got a whole array of benefits, including larger pints, discounted merchandise, beer to go, all sorts of good things. But 12 is a steal for dinner and a beer.
Fantastic. And tell me about some of the programs you have coming up this year that people could look forward to.
Well, next month's Ales for Females presentation, we're actually going to be joined by Left Hand's Josh Breckel, and he's going to be doing our second ever Nitro presentation. So we are going to have everybody come in. You're going to select your favorite Nitro. So I know all of you know, but in case you watching at home don't know, we actually make 3 nitrogenated beers. So we make Sawtooth Nitro, Milk Stout Nitro, which was the one that we first released, and our Wake Up Dead Nitro, which I'm not sure if you knew, is becoming a tasting room near exclusive. So as far as draft is concerned, so it pays to be local. And we're actually going to do the whole group together, going to be doing a hard pour. And then in March, we're going to be joined by Tyler Busey, leading a presentation on the fiction and folklore of craft beer. And then obviously there's the high five events, so hops and handrails. Who went to that last year? Our Oktoberfest, which was recently featured in Draft Magazine as being one of the best Oktoberfests in the country. And yeah, so definitely join us for those.
Fantastic. So it's a big year planned for you, a lot of expansion, Ales for Females. So Morgan Zamora, thank you so much for joining us on the Colorado Beer Trail. Morgan Zamora is the tasting room general manager assistant and also the coordinator for Ales for Females. It is a 3 times a month program that meets here at Left Hand Brewery in Longmont, Colorado. And Morgan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Let's give Jim a round of applause.
We'll see you ladies out on the Colorado Beer Trail.